Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Laura, and before we get started, I would like to ask if you could subscribe to my channel, click the red button down below, it would mean so much to me, and comment on my videos as well. I love interacting with, my audience, which it feels funny saying that, but I love interacting and reading all the comments and commenting back. And especially like a video like this, I'm sure I'll have people that disagree with me. So I'm fine with you commenting, your opinions and why you disagree with what I'm saying. So yeah. Anyway, to get into this video, this is about my opinions on superhero movies and TV shows. And to start, I'm not someone who was ever into comic books. So I get, people who grew up reading comic books that, maybe you never get tired of superhero movies because it was your dream to have them come to life on the big screen, right? So I do have that bias where I've just never been a comic book person. But I will say, back in the day, in the early 2000s, I was all about the superhero movies, like X-Men, the very first X-Men from like 2000. And then, obviously you have the Batman movies from the 90s and even Superman with Christopher Reeves. Not saying those Superman movies are like top quality cinema by any means, but basically I enjoyed all the superhero movies. And even, so in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, and then there was that TV show Heroes, which was all about people with superpowers, and I was very into it. And obviously Christopher Nolan with his Batman movies at the time was huge. But over time, for one, I just started to get burnt out on all of them. But also, they're all kind of the same, right? Like you have the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, which were more unique. But even that is starting, there's a lot of movies, superhero movies now that have taken on the same kind of vibe that the Nolan Batman movies had. So now there might be other movies that are similar to his. But even that, I'm like, man, I like the Christopher Nolan ones, but these other ones are just trying to rip him off and they're not any good. And so it's not only that they're being overdone and we're just being bombarded with them everywhere, but it's also the fact that they're just all the same. Like, when was the last time you watched a superhero movie that took you by surprise, right? Like, you know how it's gonna end. And people say, I stopped watching Avengers after like the second Avengers movie, I think, but people will say how one of the later movies, they're like, well, that one ends with the bad guy winning. It's like, okay, yeah, but we all know that in the follow-up movie, they're going to beat the bad guy somehow. So that doesn't really count. And they're just movies that are like so focused on the action and the CGI. And that's just this whole other tangent I have where movies get a lot of attention for the CGI rather than for the storyline or the acting or something, like Avatar, for example, which obviously, the graphics in that movie were super impressive, but the storyline sucked. Like, it wasn't unique at all. And yet it made so much money and was such a big deal at the time simply because of the graphics. And that just annoys me. And I don't want to say like graphics don't matter at all, because they do. And obviously it takes a lot of talent for those people who are designing all that. But I guess ultimately, like, that too comes down to personal opinion, where to me, a good movie isn't about the graphics. It's about the storyline and the characters, more than anything. And then, like, speaking of characters, superhero movies just also don't have great character development either. And even that, like, they're all kind of similar. Like I get they're different, but I don't know, it's just not a very good character analysis, I guess, basically. And they're just bad storylines, which I should say there are some superhero movies that I do like. For example, Iron Man from 2008. That still holds up, is a great movie. And I remember liking X-Men First Class. I haven't seen that since I saw it in theaters, but I remember seeing it at the time and liking it. And I will say another exception is the Watchmen movie and the TV series from HBO, because that's one where things don't go the way you think they will, and it is not your stereotypical comic book movie. So that one is also an exception. I've also heard good things about The Boys, which also has the superhero element, but I personally have never watched that. So I guess I'm mainly talking about Marvel, obviously, is huge, and then the DC comics, and like, so those specifically, I guess, are the ones I'm talking about. But yeah, back to just the movies. Like, they're just unoriginal. They're all the same. It's not even, like, I remember, like, the romance they had between Black Widow and the Hulk was just so lame and did not feel real at all. And I don't know how that pans out because, like I said, I haven't watched the last however many Avengers movies. And we're being bombarded with these superhero movies, and they are outshining quality films that are being made that actually have substance to them. And another pet peeve I have is that I believe superhero movies are the ones that started including like the super brief scene after the credits. And that has just become a huge pet peeve of mine. Like, I don't know, like, first of all, the little after credits scene, like, it doesn't even matter. Like, if it was anything that important, it would have been in the actual movie, or it will be in the follow-up movie if you're like leading us into what the next movie will cover. Like, so one, it's just this pointless clip. Who cares? And it's just, I don't know, it annoys me now because people in theaters are like, well, we need to stay and watch all the credits because there might be something afterwards. And then whether there is or isn't, it's just annoying either way because, I don't know, I never stay for the credits anymore like I used to back, like I said, when I would watch these superhero movies, I would stay for after the credits to see that, you know, little 30-second clip. But now it's just become a pet peeve of mine that they do those. So yeah, this video obviously is more of a rant and it's just more my personal opinions on them. And I know this also isn't like a unique opinion to have at this point. I started getting tired of superhero movies in like 2014. And at the time, maybe it was a more unique, you know, opinion to be tired of superhero movies and to feel like they're all the same and they're not well done. I mean, they're well done. Obviously, a lot of money and talent is put into them, but they're just not good stories, not good movies, not quality films, I guess, which makes me sound so pretentious, I know. But anyway, so back then, it was not as many people felt the same way. Whereas these days, so many people are saying that they're tired of it and it's swallowing up the market. And multiple directors have come out saying negative things about them at this point too. And I love seeing articles like that because it makes me feel vindicated, I guess, that this esteemed director is also tired of superhero movies and is talking crap about them. So I love reading quotes like that. And just to drive my point home, I'm going to include some of those quotes. So the first one is by Denis Villeneuve, which obviously he directed Dune, which came out recently, but he also did Blade Runner and Arrival. I know he's done more, but those are the main ones that are coming to mind. But so he has a quote where he has said, "Perhaps the problem is that we are in front of too many Marvel movies that are nothing more than a cut and paste of others. Perhaps these types of movies have turned us into zombies a bit. But big and expensive movies of great value, there are many today. I don't feel capable of being pessimistic at all." So I guess he's saying, like, even though Marvel movies are just all over the place and they're all the same, like, obviously he still is able to make his big budget films at least. Anyway, he goes on to say, "Just think of the golden age of Hollywood to see that commercial films can make a different artistic proposal and therefore political. I have never felt like a loss or an impediment to have a generous budget to do what I want to do. Who said that a movie on a big budget can't be artistically relevant at the same time?" If we were talking about Marvel, the thing is, all of these films are made from the same mold. Some filmmakers can add a little color to it, but they're all cast in the same factory. It doesn't take anything away from the movies, but they are formatted. So that's not too bad of an insult, I guess. But he's well, actually, I like that he says, you know, that these movies have turned us into zombies because they're all the same. And yeah, we keep going and paying money to see them. But anyway, and then another director, and this quote is from like 2015 or 2014 because it is, I'm going to say his name wrong, but it's Alejandro G. Iñárritu. And so at the time he did the movie Birdman. And Birdman is like the anti-superhero movie, and it is amazing, and I highly, highly recommend it. And so at the time that movie came out, he was quoted as saying, "For me, superheroes represent that vision of humans as flawless and certain, and all those things that are a delusional projection on how humans should be. There's something very scary about that, the vanity. And for me, humans are exactly contrary to all of that. I've never met a human like that. And I'm much more interested in humans, which I find much more dimensional and contradictory and flawed and driven by fears and anxiety, but at the same time, beautiful, pathetic, lovable creatures that I find fascinating. I think the values of the superheroes are in a way affecting the way the military mind works. So I have a conflict philosophically with the generations today not being fascinated by our human flaws and possibilities, and everything that's human seems to be boring now. It's scary for me. That's my conflict, that humans seem to now be no longer subject to analysis and observation, and we cannot see ourselves in films because we feel so bad about ourselves. We have been acting so bad in the last years, the world is in such bad shape, that probably the reason for the superhero craze, I'm being outspoken here, is that there's a shame about seeing humans on the screen." So he's projecting his own opinions on why he thinks people don't want to hear stories about humans. But I do agree with what he says about how, you know, superheroes, they're not portrayed as being perfect. Obviously, they have flaws too, but they are like, I don't know, it's like a superhero movie is more interesting because just a movie about your average human, like boring, who wants to see that? But like humans are, like he said, like they're complicated and they're flawed, but they're beautiful and fascinating. And yeah, and it is sad that people aren't interested in seeing a movie just about a normal human being going through their struggles in life, you know, and instead we want to see some superhero that, you know, how can you even identify with the superhero, you know? So there's that too, like maybe you can identify to certain aspects of whoever, but I don't know. I like watching movies that I can identify with. Yeah, and I like watching movies about humans. And I do agree that maybe people do just feel like humans are trash, and so they don't want to watch things about real people. And I was going to make a video about this, but I decided not to as of right now, but kind of along too how like we view animals above humans, like animal lives are more important than human lives. And that bugs me too when a movie will have people die, but then the movie also has one dog die and everybody is like, oh, like the dog dying, that was so sad. It's like, what about the people that died? Like the human life is more important than the animal life. And maybe some people are going to disagree with that, but I don't know. I love animals. I have 2 dogs and I love them very much. But anyway, maybe I'll make another rant video about that later. But anyway, so on to the next quote. This one is from Martin Scorsese, and this one is from last year, I believe. And so he said, "I was asked a question about Marvel movies and I answered it. I said that I've tried to watch a few of them and that they're just not for me. That they seem to me to be closer to theme parks than to movies as I've known and loved them throughout my life. That in the end, I don't think they're cinema. And if you're going to tell me that it's simply a matter of supply and demand and giving the people what they want, I'm going to disagree. It's a chicken and the egg issue. If people are given only one kind of thing and endlessly sold only one kind of thing, of course they're going to want more of that one kind of thing. In the past 20 years, as we all know, the movie business has changed on all fronts. But the most ominous change has happened stealthily and under cover of night. The gradual but steady elimination of risk. Many films today are perfect products manufactured for immediate consumption. Many of them are well made by teams of talented individuals. All the same, they lack something essential to cinema, the unifying vision of an individual artist. Because, of course, the individual artist is the riskiest factor of all." And I love that one too, because for one, superhero movies do have like the theme park effect where it's just so much going on and so much action and also so much color and so much whatever in your face. Whereas a drama about, it doesn't even have to be a drama, but a movie about just a person, it's not so bright and colorful and action filled. And so it just doesn't keep our attention because it's not that theme park feel that you get with a Marvel movie. And like he said, like art, part of being an artist is taking risks And there's no risk in superhero movies. Come on, they're all the same. And you know that they're going to sell because they're this big budget action movie. Whereas movies that like are created, like, I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but when a person, a filmmaker, an artist is making a film that they believe in, and they're doing it not for the box office, but for themselves to create something that is special to them, like there is a risk in that. But those are the best kind of movies, are the ones that are just, you can tell they're just from the director's heart, and he's requiring the most of the actors involved, and they're all in it together to create a piece of art. And again, I know I'm sounding pretentious, but yeah, there's no risk in superhero movies, and they're all the same. They're all cut from the same cloth, and it's, you know, it's not cinema, as he says. They're just these theme park blockbusters. And then there was one last quote, and this one is by Ridley Scott, which he's had 2 movies come out this year. He had The Last Duel and House of Gucci, which I will be covering House of Gucci. I will be doing a book first movie comparison, so stay tuned for that. And he also did the Alien movies, Gladiator, so he's done a ton of movies. But anyway, he said, almost always the best films are driven by the characters. And when it comes to superhero movies, the scripts just aren't any good. They're superhero movies, so why don't the superhero movies have better stories? I mean, come on, they're mostly saved by special effects, and that's becoming boring for everyone who works with special effects if you've got money. So that quote was kind of shorter, but again, it's all about the special effects. I mean, yeah, I feel like this has gone on long enough, and I've sort of been all over the place on here, but basically you get what I'm saying is that, I don't know, aren't we all tired of superhero movies? I guess if you're younger, like I said, it wasn't until I was like, I don't know, 21 or 22 where I was like, ugh, enough already. So, I don't know. When I was in high school, I was all about them, and I thought they were awesome, and I was excited for the new ones to come out. But starting around like 2013, 2014, I would still go see them, but I would leave the theater feeling disappointed. And I started to realize, like, you know, these are all the same. And this isn't the theater experience I want, is to just see the same movie, just with a different actor up there. And I remember going to see, I think, the second Avengers in theaters, and the only reason I went was because we were going as a group with my family, and that's what they wanted to see, so I went and saw it. And on the way home, I got in a disagreement with a family member because they loved it, and it got under my skin, so I was explaining why it was so cliche and not any good at all, and we got in a little tiff about it. But anyway, if you agree or if you disagree, I would love for you to comment down below, and we can have a conversation about this. And I know there's people that admit that we're flooded with these movies, but that at the same time they still enjoy them. And then like Disney Plus, all the stupid TV shows they have on there, like, oh my goodness, like how are people still interested in this? I really don't understand it. Again, I feel like if you're younger, that makes sense, but for the grown adults that have been dealing with this for like a few decades now, like, how are you not tired of it? Like, I'm genuinely curious. And I think the only reason that I can think of is that if you read the comic books when you were younger, then it makes sense, I guess, that you would still like them. But I really just don't understand it. And yeah, even like, I love Tom Hardy, but I just could not bring myself to see Venom because I was like, no, it's just going to be like all the others. I already know. It's not going to be worth it, even if I love Tom Hardy. And so when I see an actor I love who's in a superhero movie, there's a little part of me that's tempted, but then ultimately I'm like, no, it's not worth it because I'm just going to leave the theater feeling disappointed all over again. So anyway, I haven't seen a superhero movie since 2015. And so it's been a long time. I haven't been, yeah, I've like rewatched maybe some of the older ones. Like I watched Iron Man again last year. And like I said, that one still holds up and I really liked it. But I haven't seen any movies that have come out in the last 5 or 6 years. And I just can't bring myself to do it. Like, for the most part, I'm not picky when it comes to movies and I'll watch anything, but except superhero movies, like I just cringe and I can't stand watching them. But anyway, I guess my pretentious rant is over. And yeah, comment down below and we can have a conversation about this. And don't forget to subscribe. And most of my content is book related, so if you're into books, definitely subscribe to my channel. But yeah, I guess that wraps it up for now, and I will see you next time.